The Philosophy of Persistence, How Paul Hogan Turned Setbacks into Comebacks. In the grand theater of human achievement, few stories illuminate the transformative power of persistence as brilliantly as Paul Hogan's extraordinary journey from working-class origins to international stardom. His life represents the ultimate masterclass in how setbacks can become setups for comebacks when approached with the right philosophy, unwavering determination, and genuine belief that every obstacle contains within it the seeds of its own solution. This is the inspiring exploration of how Paul developed and lived by a philosophy of persistence that transformed every rejection, every failure, and every challenge into stepping stones toward greater achievement. His approach to setbacks wasn't based on denial or blind optimism, but on a sophisticated understanding that resilience combined with authentic character creates opportunities that wouldn't exist for those who give up when circumstances become difficult. Most remarkably, Paul's philosophy of persistence was never about bulldozing through obstacles or ignoring reality, but about finding creative solutions that honored both his authentic character and the legitimate concerns of those who initially said no. His comebacks were built on learning, adaptation, and the wisdom that true persistence requires flexibility of method while maintaining consistency of purpose. This is the story of how Paul transformed teenage rejection into boxing discipline, swimming pool flirtation into lifelong marriage, bridge work monotony into comedy inspiration, television criticism into cultural revolution, entertainment industry skepticism into international success, and personal setbacks into opportunities for growth and deeper understanding of what really matters in life. Through his pioneering work in entertainment, his innovative approaches to cultural representation, his creative solutions to business challenges, and his ability to find opportunity in every apparent defeat, Paul demonstrated that persistence isn't about never falling down, it's about developing the skill, wisdom, and character to transform every fall into a foundation for reaching heights you couldn't have imagined from your original position. Chapter 1: The Foundation of Fighting Back. Paul Hogan's philosophy of persistence began in his teenage years when early setbacks taught him that fighting back against circumstances requires not just determination but the wisdom to channel frustration into constructive action that builds character while creating opportunities for future success that wouldn't exist without the initial challenges. I was a bad-tempered kid. I wouldn't put up with any nonsense, but they didn't put that in the movie. They missed all the humor I had. It was just a teenage thing, that having a bad temper. That's when I got into boxing, and that took it away. It's sort of self-discipline that stopped being bad-tempered. It was the best thing that could have happened. Paul reflected about his early transformation of anger into athletic achievement. The boxing training that Paul pursued as response to his teenage anger taught him foundational lessons about persistence that would guide every major challenge throughout his life. The understanding that physical and mental toughness must be developed through consistent daily practice rather than dramatic gestures or temporary enthusiasm. The discipline that boxing required: early morning training, consistent practice regardless of mood, acceptance of physical discomfort as part of improvement, created mental habits that Paul would later apply to entertainment industry challenges, business negotiations, and personal relationship development with the same methodical approach to incremental progress. But I found my niche in life as a swimming pool attendant. I thought that was my first important job. Paul noted about discovering that every position, no matter how humble, could serve as platform for developing skills and relationships that might prove crucial for future opportunities if approached with the right attitude and commitment to excellence. The swimming pool job, where Paul met his future wife Nolene, demonstrated his early understanding that persistence in relationships requires consistency of character rather than grand romantic gestures. As he won her affection through reliable presence and authentic personality rather than artificial charm or manipulative behavior. I was a massive flirt. I liked her, and she liked me, and we got married. I was a dad at 19. I actually had 3 sons by the time I was 22, so I had to grow up very fast. Paul recalled about how early responsibility accelerated his development of persistence skills that many people don't acquire until much later in life, if ever. The rapid transition from teenage flirtation to marriage and fatherhood forced Paul to develop persistence not as theoretical concept, but as daily survival skill, as providing for family required consistent effort regardless of personal feelings, temporary setbacks, or changing circumstances that might have discouraged someone without compelling reasons to persist. The early parenting experience that shaped Paul's character included understanding that true persistence serves others rather than just yourself, creating motivation that extends beyond personal ambition to include responsibility for people who depend on your continued effort and success, regardless of temporary obstacles or discouragements. The bridge work that followed Paul's early marriage provided perfect training ground for developing persistence philosophy, as the repetitive physical labor, early morning schedules, and exposure to harsh weather conditions required mental toughness that couldn't be faked or purchased, but had to be developed through consistent daily practice. We ended up settling down on the Harbor Bridge, and it was work like getting up at 4 to 6 in the morning, get on a bus, on a train, and go to work and sort of come home, and we'd play in the backyard, football and stuff like that. Paul remembered about the routine that taught him persistence isn't about dramatic moments, but about showing up consistently when ordinary effort is required. The financial struggles that characterized Paul's early married life. Financially always a struggle, but didn't know any other life, so didn't have any problems with it. Demonstrated how persistence philosophy includes acceptance of current circumstances while maintaining vision for improvement through sustained effort over time. The physical demands of bridge construction work taught Paul that persistence requires both mental determination and physical conditioning, as sustained effort over long periods demands bodily strength and endurance that must be developed through gradual conditioning rather than temporary bursts of intensity. The observation and learning opportunities that bridge work provided, watching how massive construction projects developed through countless individual contributions over extended time periods, gave Paul concrete understanding of how persistence creates results that seem impossible when viewed from starting position, but become inevitable through consistent daily progress. The social dynamics of construction work taught Paul that persistence often requires maintaining good relationships with colleagues and supervisors even when circumstances are difficult, as long-term success depends on reputation for reliability and positive attitude that creates opportunities for advancement and collaboration. The geographic perspective that bridge work provided, literally seeing the city from elevated position, created metaphorical understanding that persistence often involves maintaining long-term vision while handling immediate tasks, keeping sight of larger goals while managing daily responsibilities that might seem disconnected from ultimate objectives. Chapter 2, Transforming Rejection into Opportunity. Paul Hogan's mastery of persistence was most clearly demonstrated through his ability to transform every rejection and setback into information that guided better approaches, proving that comebacks aren't about forcing unwilling people to change their minds, but about learning what's really required for success and developing the skills to meet those requirements authentically. The entertainment industry rejection that Paul initially faced when attempting to transition from bridge work to television provided crucial education about the difference between having natural talent and developing the professional skills, industry knowledge, and business relationships required to transform talent into sustainable career success. Paul Hogan's big break came when he was invited to appear on A Current Affair, which was Mike Willisey's new show that he had started with a journalist called John Cornell. But this opportunity came only after Paul had developed his comedic voice through informal workplace entertainment and community performances that built confidence while refining his authentic appeal. The television audition process that led to Paul's Current Affair opportunity taught him that persistence in entertainment requires authenticity rather than artifice, as his success came from being genuinely himself rather than attempting to imitate other performers or conform to industry expectations that conflicted with his natural character. They were looking for someone to give the man in the street's opinion, and I was a genuine man in the street, and he would just come in after work on the bridge and very casually get in front of the camera and do his piece, demonstrating how Paul transformed his working-class background from potential limitation into competitive advantage through authentic presentation. The audience response that Paul's early television appearances generated, they got a tremendous reaction from audiences. The letters came flowing in, proved that persistence combined with authenticity creates value that artificial sophistication cannot match, even in sophisticated entertainment industry contexts. The creative partnership that Paul developed with John Cornell represented transformation of potential competition into collaboration, as both men recognized that their individual talents could achieve more through cooperation than either could accomplish independently, regardless of ego or control issues that might have prevented effective partnership. Well, it wasn't political, but it was patriotic. And I think that what they were trying to do was to not give Australians a voice, but give Australians permission and encouragement to have a voice, capturing how Paul's persistence philosophy included service to others rather than just personal advancement, creating sustainable motivation for continued effort. The cultural resistance that Paul encountered when challenging established entertainment norms taught him that persistence often requires patience while people adjust to new ideas, as meaningful change typically faces initial skepticism that must be overcome through consistent demonstration of value rather than argument or persuasion. The technical skills that Paul developed through television experience, camera awareness, timing, audience connection, demonstrated how persistence includes willingness to learn professional competencies that may not come naturally but are essential for success in chosen field, regardless of natural talent or authentic character. The business education that Paul acquired through entertainment industry experience taught him that persistence must include understanding practical aspects of career development, including contracts, negotiations, and financial management that determine whether creative success translates into sustainable livelihood. The relationship building that Paul mastered through entertainment industry networking proved that persistence includes investing in authentic connections with colleagues, collaborators, and industry professionals who can provide opportunities, advice, and support throughout extended career development that requires multiple types of assistance. The creative evolution that Paul demonstrated through his television work showed how persistence requires willingness to experiment, refine, and improve your approach while maintaining core authentic characteristics that provide foundation for distinctive appeal that can't be replicated by competitors or replaced by changing fashion. The audience development that Paul achieved through consistent television performance proved that persistence creates compound returns over time, as early viewers who appreciated authentic appeal became loyal supporters who recommended his work to others, creating expanding circles of appreciation and opportunity. The industry reputation that Paul built through reliable professional performance demonstrated how persistence includes meeting commitments, maintaining quality standards, and treating colleagues with respect even when circumstances are challenging, as sustainable success depends on trustworthiness that must be earned through consistent behavior over extended periods. The creative confidence that Paul developed through repeated television success provided foundation for taking larger risks and pursuing more ambitious projects, proving that persistence builds capabilities that enable achievement of goals that seemed impossible from earlier vantage points but become accessible through accumulated experience and proven competence. Chapter 3, The Alchemy of Creative Persistence. Paul Hogan's approach to creative development demonstrated that persistence in artistic fields requires balancing consistency of vision with willingness to experiment and evolve, proving that lasting creative success comes from maintaining authentic voice while continuously expanding the range and sophistication of how that voice can be expressed and applied. The Paul Hogan Show that established his television career represented perfect synthesis of persistent effort and creative innovation, as the program's success required both consistent weekly production and ongoing creative evolution that kept audiences engaged while building toward larger entertainment opportunities. The deal I had with Kerry Packer was when I think of enough funny ideas and put it together, I'll put a show on, and if I don't think any next month or the month after, there won't be a show. And he was happy with that, demonstrating how Paul negotiated creative freedom that supported authentic expression rather than forcing artificial productivity. The creative collaboration that Paul developed with John Cornell and other performers proved that persistence in entertainment requires building authentic relationships with talented people who share your values and vision while bringing complementary skills that enhance rather than compete with your distinctive capabilities. The sketch development process that characterized the Paul Hogan Show taught Paul how creative persistence involves testing ideas through audience response, refining concepts based on feedback, and building repertoire of reliable material while constantly developing new concepts that push artistic boundaries without abandoning proven successful approaches. Some of the Paul Hogan shows dated because obviously times have changed. Women are really there only in the way that they are seen by men, so it's a very male gaze. Paul later acknowledged about the importance of creative evolution that responds to changing social understanding while maintaining core entertainment values. The character development skills that Paul mastered through television work provided foundation for later film success, proving that persistence in entertainment includes building technical competencies, timing, physical comedy, audience connection that support more ambitious projects requiring sophisticated professional skills. The audience relationship that Paul cultivated through consistent television presence demonstrated how creative persistence creates emotional connection with viewers that transcends individual performances to become ongoing relationship based on trust, familiarity, and expectation of authentic entertainment value that serves audience interests rather than just performer ego. The cultural impact that the Paul Hogan Show achieved, they were trying to give Australians permission and encouragement to have a voice, proved that creative persistence can serve broader social purposes when authentic artistic expression addresses community needs and cultural development rather than just individual career advancement. The industry education that Paul acquired through television production taught him business aspects of entertainment that would prove crucial for later film success, including understanding audience development, content distribution, and the relationship between creative quality and commercial viability that determines sustainable career development. The creative confidence that Paul built through television success provided psychological foundation for pursuing more ambitious projects like Crocodile Dundee, proving that persistence creates capabilities and opportunities that enable achievement of goals that seemed impossible from earlier career positions but become accessible through accumulated experience. The collaborative relationships that Paul maintained throughout his television career created a network of professional connections who would later contribute to film projects, demonstrating how creative persistence includes nurturing authentic relationships that provide ongoing support, opportunity, and collaborative potential throughout extended career development. The creative standards that Paul established through television work, commitment to quality, respect for audience intelligence, authentic character presentation, created reputation for reliable entertainment value that opened doors to larger opportunities while establishing expectations that guided future creative decisions and professional relationships. The artistic growth that Paul demonstrated through television career evolution showed how creative persistence requires balancing consistency with innovation, maintaining authentic voice while expanding range of expression and technical capabilities that enable continued relevance and advancement in changing entertainment industry contexts. The cultural preservation that Paul achieved through authentic Australian representation in his television work proved that creative persistence can serve heritage and identity development when artists commit to honest portrayal of their communities and values rather than artificial attempts to appeal to external expectations or temporary fashion trends. The entertainment legacy that The Paul Hogan Show created established template for authentic Australian comedy that influenced subsequent generations of performers, proving that creative persistence creates value that extends beyond individual success to include ongoing cultural contribution and inspiration for others pursuing similar artistic goals. Chapter 4: Business Persistence and Innovation. Paul Hogan's transition from television success to international film stardom required developing sophisticated business persistence that combined creative vision with practical understanding of entertainment industry mechanics, proving that artistic achievement must be supported by strategic thinking and systematic effort in areas that may not come naturally to creative personalities. The tourism campaign development that preceded Crocodile Dundee demonstrated Paul's understanding that persistence in entertainment often involves creating multiple revenue streams and promotional opportunities that support larger artistic goals while building audience awareness and industry credibility necessary for ambitious projects. The tourism ads came about because John and Paul were walking past Australia House in London and saw a picture of a koala that was our poster campaign for tourism and were a bit disappointed and thought they could do a much better job showing how business opportunities often emerge from recognizing unmet needs and having confidence to propose better solutions. The innovative deal structure that John Cornell negotiated for the tourism campaign, the deal that John made for those commercials, was not that John be paid or Paul be paid, but was that they put the highest production quality into the commercials and that they primetime television in America demonstrated strategic thinking that prioritized long-term opportunity over immediate payment. The Shrimp on the Barbie campaign that resulted from this partnership. The Shrimp on the Barbie tourism ads are the single best tourism campaign Australia has ever done to this day, prove that business persistence combined with authentic creativity can achieve results that exceed commercial goals to create lasting cultural impact. The audience development strategy that the tourism campaign represented showed how Paul understood that film success would require international recognition and positive associations with Australian culture, making the advertising work essential preparation for later entertainment industry success rather than distraction from artistic goals. The character development that Paul pursued for Mick Dundee. Paul had been thinking about the character of Mick Dundee, I think, for a while. I just got bored of writing sketches. I'd like to do something that lasts longer. Demonstrated how business persistence requires long-term vision that guides creative decisions toward increasingly ambitious and sustainable projects. The financing innovation that enabled Crocodile Dundee production proved that business persistence often requires creating new solutions when established industry practices don't support your vision. As Paul and John developed independent funding strategies that maintained creative control while achieving commercial viability. You just passed the hat around. Absolutely. Like there was no crowdfunding, there's no assistance from the New South Wales Film Commission. Like none of that had started, showing how business persistence sometimes requires pioneering new approaches when existing support systems aren't available or appropriate for your specific goals and circumstances. The investment strategy that Paul and John employed, so there was no real tax benefits for anybody. You just had to pass the hat around. Faith in John and Hodges. Yeah, absolutely demonstrated how business success often depends on building authentic relationships with investors who believe in your character and vision, rather than just financial projections. The distribution innovation that characterized Crocodile Dundee's international success required persistence in developing new market entry strategies when established entertainment industry practices didn't support independent Australian film production or recognize the commercial potential of authentic cultural representation. the blue sky deal negotiations that John Cornell conducted in America. So a blue sky deal, that's when you go to a distributor and we got knockbacks. Like 20th Century Fox didn't want to know about it. Proved that business persistence often requires continuing effort after initial rejections while maintaining confidence in your vision despite industry skepticism. The marketing strategy that supported Crocodile Dundee's success combined Paul's tourism campaign recognition with innovative promotion approaches that built audience excitement while educating international viewers about Australian culture, demonstrating how business persistence includes creating comprehensive support systems for artistic projects. The sequel development that followed the original film's success showed how business persistence requires balancing audience expectations with creative evolution, maintaining commercial viability while pursuing artistic growth that keeps long-term career development moving forward rather than just repeating past successes. The international business expansion that Crocodile Dundee enabled taught Paul about global entertainment industry operations, creating knowledge and relationships that would support future projects while demonstrating how business success creates opportunities for continued learning and professional development throughout extended careers. The legacy business planning that Paul's film success enabled included understanding how entertainment properties can generate ongoing revenue through distribution, licensing, and brand development that provides financial foundation for continued creative work and investment in future projects that serve artistic rather than just commercial goals. Chapter 5, Personal Persistence Through Relationship Challenges. Paul Hogan's most profound demonstrations of persistence occurred not in professional achievements, but in his approach to personal relationships, family responsibilities, and the complex challenges of maintaining authentic human connections while navigating the pressures and opportunities that accompany public success and international recognition. The early marriage and parenthood that shaped Paul's character. I was a dad at 9. I actually had 3 sons by the time I was 22, so I had to grow up very fast. Taught him that persistence in relationships requires accepting responsibility even when circumstances seem overwhelming or premature by conventional standards. The family foundation that Paul built with his first wife Nolene demonstrated how personal persistence includes creating stability and security for others, even when your own future is uncertain, as providing for family requires consistent effort regardless of temporary setbacks or changing personal circumstances. He maintained a very normal household, as did Nolene, and so even though Nolene would love to go to the Logies and all the special events, they didn't seek the limelight. It was more about family. Observers noted about Paul's approach to balancing public success with private relationships that required protection and nurturing. The parenting philosophy that Paul developed through hands-on experience. He was sort of mom's 4th child, really. Showed how personal persistence sometimes requires maintaining childlike enthusiasm and playfulness while accepting adult responsibilities, creating family environments that serve everyone's developmental needs. The relationship challenges that fame created for Paul's family. It was hard for all my kids then. Thrust into a limelight that they didn't invite, taught him that persistence in relationships includes protecting others from negative consequences of your success while helping them benefit from positive opportunities. The marriage transition that Paul navigated during his Linda Kozlowski relationship required applying persistence principles to complex emotional situations where there were no clear right answers, only competing values and responsibilities that had to be balanced through thoughtful decision-making over time. He would never kid himself. John wouldn't let him anyway. You know, they both of them were always good at keeping people in check and each other and me. There was no ego. Don't get ahead of yourself. Revealing how personal persistence includes accepting honest feedback from trusted advisors even when it conflicts with desires or temporary emotions. The friendship maintenance that Paul demonstrated throughout his career proved that personal persistence includes nurturing long-term relationships with people who knew you before success, maintaining connections that provide stability and authentic perspective regardless of changing external circumstances or new opportunities. The collaborative partnership that Paul maintained with John Cornell throughout decades of professional work demonstrated how personal persistence in business relationships requires balancing creative differences with mutual respect, finding ways to grow together rather than growing apart, despite evolving individual interests. The family responsibility that Paul maintained toward his children from his first marriage, despite the complications created by his second marriage, showed how personal persistence includes fulfilling obligations to people who depend on you even when circumstances make those obligations challenging or inconvenient. The relationship repair that Paul pursued in later years with family members and colleagues proved that personal persistence sometimes requires admitting mistakes, seeking forgiveness, and rebuilding trust through consistent behavior over extended periods rather than grand gestures or verbal explanations. The aging process that Paul navigated with dignity, maintaining relationships with adult children, former colleagues, and longtime friends, demonstrated how personal persistence adapts to changing life circumstances while preserving core values and authentic character that provide continuity throughout inevitable transitions. The mentorship role that Paul accepted with younger performers like Shane Jacobson proved that personal persistence includes sharing experience and wisdom with emerging talent rather than competing with or ignoring the next generation of artists pursuing similar goals in changed industry circumstances. The grandparent relationship that Paul developed with his son Chance's children showed how personal persistence creates opportunities to contribute positively to future generations, finding new purposes and meanings that extend beyond individual achievement to include service to family and community development. The friendship cultivation that Paul maintained with colleagues like Dean Murphy proved that personal persistence includes remaining open to new relationships and collaborations even in later career phases when it might seem easier to rely only on established connections and proven partnerships from earlier success periods. The personal growth that Paul demonstrated through his various relationship challenges showed how persistence includes willingness to change, learn, and adapt while maintaining core character traits that provide authentic foundation for all relationships, regardless of external circumstances or temporary difficulties. Chapter 6: Legacy Persistence and Wisdom Sharing. As Paul Hogan's extraordinary career evolved from active performance to elder statesman status, his approach to persistence adapted to include preserving and sharing the wisdom he had accumulated while continuing to contribute meaningfully to the entertainment industry, cultural development, and the lives of people who could benefit from his experience and perspective. The mentorship role that Paul accepted with younger performers like Dean Murphy and Shane Jacobson demonstrated how persistence in later career includes investing time and energy in supporting emerging talent rather than competing with or ignoring the next generation of artists pursuing similar goals in changed industry circumstances. I think the great thing about the movies that he made with Dean Murphy was that Paul Hogan had then gotten a little bit older and he played roles that were age appropriate, and he also played Australian men, and he was back in Australia, and that's why those movies worked, showing how creative persistence adapts to changing circumstances while maintaining core values. The collaborative spirit that Paul maintained throughout his later projects proved that wisdom persistence includes remaining open to new ideas and approaches while sharing experience that helps younger colleagues avoid common mistakes and develop their own authentic artistic voices rather than simply imitating past successful formulas. The cultural preservation work that Paul continued through his authentic Australian representation in later films demonstrated how legacy persistence includes protecting and sharing cultural values and perspectives that might be lost without conscious effort to maintain and transmit them to future generations. The industry knowledge that Paul shared through interviews, documentaries, and informal mentorship proved that wisdom persistence includes documenting and communicating insights about creative development, business practices, and professional relationships that can help others navigate similar challenges and opportunities. Although no longer actively involved in the entertainment industry, Paul Hogan expressed a desire to complete one final project to thank his fans before officially retiring, demonstrating how legacy persistence includes finding meaningful ways to conclude active career while expressing gratitude for support and opportunities that made success possible. The family relationship maintenance that Paul pursued with his adult children and grandchildren showed how personal persistence evolves to include sharing life lessons, family history, and values that provide younger generations with foundation for their own life decisions and character development. The cultural ambassadorship role that Paul continued to fulfill through his international reputation proved that legacy persistence includes ongoing representation of positive values and authentic character that benefits not just individual reputation but collective cultural development and international relationships. The creative inspiration that Paul's life story provides for emerging artists demonstrated how persistence creates value that extends beyond individual achievement to include ongoing influence on others who face similar challenges and aspire to achieve authentic success through dedication and character development rather than shortcuts or artificial advantages. The documentary participation that Paul engaged in during his later years proved that wisdom persistence includes cooperating with efforts to preserve and share the lessons learned through extraordinary career experiences that might benefit others while honoring colleagues and collaborators who contributed to collective achievements. The interview generosity that Paul demonstrated throughout his later career showed how legacy persistence includes making time to share insights and experiences with media, researchers, and others who are working to understand and communicate the principles that enable authentic success and meaningful contribution throughout throughout extended careers. The business wisdom that Paul accumulated through decades of entertainment industry experience created knowledge about creative development, audience building, and professional relationship management that continues to inform industry practices while helping emerging artists understand how success can be achieved and maintained with integrity. The life philosophy that Paul developed through his journey from bridge worker to international icon provides template for approaching challenges, opportunities, and transitions with persistence that honors authentic character while remaining open to growth, learning, and adaptation throughout changing circumstances and evolving goals. The community contribution that Paul's example represents includes demonstration that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary results through persistence, authenticity, and service to others, providing inspiration and practical guidance for anyone facing their own challenges and pursuing their own version of meaningful success. The historical preservation that Paul's career represents includes maintaining connection to cultural values and approaches that might be forgotten in rapidly changing entertainment industry contexts. Ensuring that wisdom about authentic character and genuine service to audiences continues to influence creative development. The gratitude expression that characterized Paul's later career demonstrated how wisdom persistence includes acknowledging the people, circumstances, and opportunities that contributed to success while accepting responsibility for the choices and efforts that transformed potential into achievement through sustained dedication over extended periods. Epilogue: The Eternal Comeback. As Paul Hogan's remarkable journey continues into his 9th decade, the ultimate lesson of his philosophy of persistence emerges, that every setback truly can become a setup for a comeback when approached with the right combination of character, creativity, and unwavering commitment to learning from every experience while serving something larger than yourself. The bridge worker who learned to build connections between separate places created a template for persistent achievement that transcends individual circumstances to provide universal principles for transforming challenges into opportunities, failures into foundations, and temporary defeats into permanent victories that benefit not just the individual, but everyone touched by authentic persistence guided by genuine character. I never thought my little film would become a cultural icon. I'm incredibly grateful for the love and support from audiences throughout the years. Paul reflected about his career, but this gratitude represents more than politeness. It reflects deep understanding that persistent achievement serves others rather than just yourself, creating value that multiplies through service rather than diminishing through selfishness. The philosophy of persistence that Paul developed and lived throughout his extraordinary career proves that comebacks aren't about forcing circumstances to change according to your will, but about changing yourself in ways that align with opportunity while maintaining authentic character that provides sustainable foundation for continued growth and contribution. The setbacks that Paul transformed into comebacks, teenage anger into boxing discipline, working class origins into entertainment authenticity, industry skepticism into cultural revolution, personal challenges into deeper wisdom, demonstrate that persistence isn't about avoiding difficulties but about developing the skills to extract value from every experience regardless of its initial appearance. He maintains a good relationship with his son Chance Hogan. The father and son often spend time together sharing simple everyday moments, capturing the ultimate expression of persistent achievement, relationships that provide meaning beyond professional accomplishment while creating legacy that continues through future generations who benefit from wisdom earned through authentic struggle and genuine service. The creative legacy that Paul's persistence created includes not just entertainment products but methodology for approaching artistic challenges, business development, and personal relationships with combination of authentic character and strategic thinking that serves long-term goals while addressing immediate needs and responsibilities. The cultural impact that Paul's persistence achieved proves that individual commitment to authentic excellence can influence entire communities and nations, creating positive changes that extend far beyond personal success to include collective confidence, international relationships, and economic development that benefits millions of people across multiple generations. The business innovation that Paul's persistence pioneered, independent financing, authentic cultural representation, innovative marketing, created templates that other artists and entrepreneurs continue to use while adapting his principles to contemporary circumstances and opportunities that require similar courage and creativity. The relationship wisdom that Paul's persistence developed through decades of marriage, parenthood, friendship, and professional collaboration provides guidance for anyone seeking to build authentic connections that withstand the pressures and changes that accompany sustained achievement and continued growth throughout extended life and career development. The ultimate comeback that Paul's life represents is not any single recovery from setback, but the ongoing transformation of every challenge into opportunity for growth, every failure into foundation for future success, and every ending into beginning of something better than what came before when approached with persistent commitment to authentic character and genuine service to others. The bridge that Paul built through his philosophy of persistence connects not just his own past and future, but everyone who learns from his example that setbacks are temporary, character is permanent, and persistence guided by authentic values creates comebacks that serve not just individual achievement, but collective human flourishing that extends far beyond any single lifetime or career. As the bridge worker who became a bridge builder concludes his remarkable demonstration of persistence in action, his greatest comeback continues through everyone who discovers that they, too, can transform their setbacks into setups for comebacks that serve purposes larger than themselves, while remaining true to the authentic character that provides foundation for all meaningful achievement and lasting contribution to the world they temporarily inhabit. The eternal nature of Paul's comeback lies not in avoiding future challenges, but in proving that no setback is permanent when met with persistent character, authentic values, and commitment to serving something larger than yourself, demonstrating that the philosophy of persistence isn't just about achieving your own goals, but about creating foundations that support everyone else's comeback potential when they face their own inevitable challenges and opportunities for growth through authentic determination and genuine service to others.